Okay, good morning. We are in Hilchos Yom Tov. Taf, Kuf, Yud, and Gimel, right? Gimel. We are in Seif Daled. Okay, Seif Daled. Mutar lichpot aleha kli kedei shelo tishaver. So here you had an egg that was laid on Yom Tov, and it's muksa. You can't use it, so what do? Just leave it there. Or you can put a kli over it. But when you over it, sure, it's a big enough kli, and you're not using the sides of the kli are not touching the egg because it'll cause it to move. Right? It's a round surface, and causing it to move is part of the isser of muksa. Okay. Hey. B'yom tov rishon, muter b'yom tov sheni. Okay, so now, if the egg was laid on the first day of Yom Tov, you're allowed to use it on the second day of Yom Tov, right? This is in Chutz La'aretz, because one day to the next, only one day is really Yom Tov. Everyone agrees only one day is only Yom Tov. It's 2 separate days, and therefore, either the first day was Yom Tov or the second day was Yom Tov, and so therefore, on the day itself that it's laid, it's Aser. But for the next day, it's mutter. Now, I just want to point out, when you learn the Gemara in the beginning of Beitza, it happens to be, right, everyone's famous quotation, Hachana de Rabba. So, Rabba holds that there's an Isser to be mechin from Shabbos to Yom Tov. And that's an Isser deraisa. So that everyone's familiar with. But there's also a Chana Derabba, basically the same page, really the next stuff. Just it may not be as clear. There's also from Yom Tov to Shabbos is also a Chana Derabba. That's Aser. Now, the only thing that everyone agrees is Daraisa when you read the Gemara is from Shabbos to Yom Tov. If the Nigmar, it was fully prepared on Shabbos, so to now use it on Yom Tov, it's Shabbos being mechin to Yom Tov, that everyone agrees is daraisa. This comes up a couple times, but if it's from Yom Tov to Shabbos, or Shabbos for Shabbos, or Yom Tov for Yom Tov, so then that could be a machlokas if it's daraisa darabanan. But it's clear from the Gemara that Rabbah, which is the halacha, both are aser. So here, even if it was born on the first day Yom Tov, on that day itself, it's also hachana. Because it was more prepared, and there's 2 types of hachana. One is the day before. So just to clarify, whenever the egg is laid, it's the day before we assume it was completed inside the chicken. And so that's one type of hachana. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or nature, prepared it. So therefore, if the day before it was laid is Shabbos, you can't use it from that Shabbos to the next day. Also, being laid itself is also a form of hachana. So there's 2 types, with the days there's 2 types of hachana derabba, and then actually being nigmar the day before, inside the chicken, and being laid, both are types of preparation where now it's more ready than it was before. And both of them he holds is aser, which is the halacha. Aval, bishnei yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah. But if there's 2 days of Yom Tov, so normally Yom Tov, it's okay from one day to the next, because only one of them is really Yom Tov. But when it comes to yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah, we say that both days, midarabanan, is considered like one long day. So therefore, if it was laid on one day, for sure it's going to be aser on the next day. V'chein, and so too, b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov, smuchim zelazeh. Anytime you have back-to-back Shabbos v'Yom Tov, it's smuchim zelazeh. One is, it's aser from one to the next. Noda bazeh, asura bazeh. So if it's born on one, it's going to be aser on the other. Okay. Haga. V'im Yom Tov b'Yom Rishon Sheni, or V'Sheni, V'noda b'Shabbos shelifneihem muter b'Yom Sheni shel Galios. This just means, if it was born on Shabbos, and Sunday is the first day Yom Tov, and Monday is the second day Yom Tov, so on the day it's laid, on Shabbos it's Aser. On the next day Yom Tov, the first day, it's Aser. But once you get to Monday, it's Mutter. Because even though it's all back to back, but we still say Mimanashach, from one day to the next, by Yom Tov Sheni Shabbos, by regular Yomim Tovim. By Rosh Hashanah, both days would be Aser. Okay, now. Right, Rosh Hashanah can't fall out on Sunday. Not on our calendar. That's good. Okay. So, I think we'll go on. Right. Part of Hachana Derabba is it can't be on Shabbos. Only Yom Tov can prepare for Shabbos. Shabbos can't prepare for Shabbos, and Yom Tov can't prepare for Shabbos. It has to be a weekday. It has to be a weekday, like Friday, Thursday. That's a free Yom Chol. That's what has to prepare for Shabbos. Okay. Vav. Beita shiatza ruba merav Yom Tov. Now, let's say most of the egg came out. So normally the principle is rubo kekulo. So if most of the egg came out, we assume it was nigmar, it was fully complete, and came out. So v'chazra v'achar kach nolda b'Yom Tov. So if on erev Yom Tov it came out. So even though the egg went back in, since most of it came out, we assume it was completely nigmar and nolad, and the hachana was completely done on erev Yom Tov, a complete chol. So then, of course, when it's actually laid on Yom Tov, muteret. I've never seen that, but okay. Lefichach, afilu badak bekina shel tarnagolet erev Yom Tov samuch lachashecha v'lo matzah ba beitza v'lo machar hishkim umatzah ba beitza muteret. Now, what happens if you check it on erev Yom Tov? You check the egg or the nest, whatever, or whatever, however they're, I don't know, chicken coops, whatever it is. You're checking for the eggs, and you don't see an egg there. But you come back at night or early morning before Alos HaShachar. So in other words, we're talking about the night. Right? So you check it sometime in the night. So then it's basically like a chazaka. We say it was nola during the day. Because normally the assumption is that chickens, they do their things, the mating is done during the day, and the eggs are always laid only during the day. So therefore, even if you didn't check it, and now you find it at nighttime, we'll assume it wasn't laid at night. Even if you checked it, we'll assume it was laid during the day after you checked it. The day before, after you checked it. Let's say you check it, I don't know, Yom Tov is Thursday, so you check it on Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and then you check it at midnight, or 4 o'clock in the morning. So since it's still nighttime, the chazaka eggs are not laid at night, so we assume it was done after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after you checked it.
Even if you didn't check it, then
even if you didn't check it. Well, kol shekain if you checked it.
Right. That's why they keep the lights on in chicken coops. Because then the eggs, these chickens run.
Interesting.
Eggs come out.
Anyway. I don't know how often all these halachos come up, and we're going to also see, our eggs nowadays, usually when we buy them, really it depends on the metzias, but usually they're all eggs without a zachar, without a male. The chazakas are not done at night. It happened, came out during the day. Ruba, most of it came out, v'chazar, and then it came back in even. Right. So even if it came out, we assume, even if you didn't see it, also we're assuming that most of it came out, and then it went back in, and then came back out again. So that's the chazaka, so therefore you're allowed to use it. V'hu sheyesh tarnagol zachar toch shishim batim. So first he says, now this is only if you have a zachar within toch shishim batim, within 60 houses. Because then the males get to the females. Ve'eno mafsik nahar she'en bo gesher. And then, and there's no river, or if there's a river, there's a bridge that it can get to it. That the males can get to the females. She'im lokein, efshar she'teler balaylo v'aser. But if there's no chance for a zachar, then we are afraid that maybe it was born at night. That's if you checked it on Friday afternoon. But if you didn't check at all on Erev Yom Tov, and the egg just shows up at the nighttime, even if there is if there's no male around, even if it lays eggs without being not fermented, what's the word? Fertilized, there you go. So even without a zachar, ruban yoldas bayom. Even if it's without a zachar, it's still usually done by daytime. Just the percentages change, so it depends.
So the problem is really when you check beforehand and you find out that it's not there.
It makes it worse. It makes it worse. Because then you can't say it was Nola at any time on Wednesday was our case. Any time during the day or any day beforehand. You only have like a window of an hour. Laws of probability change a little bit. Lefichach, mutar likach veitzim min ein Yehudi beleil rishon shel Yom Tov. Okay, so let's get a little more practical. Now, you want to go to your next door neighbor who has chickens and he's laying eggs, the chicken. So then you want to go at nighttime and take an egg from your non-Jewish neighbor. So on the night of Yom Tov. So can you? So we say you could. The talinan sheme'erev Yom Tov noldu, because we assume since it's nighttime, they're not laid at night. We could just automatically assume that it was laid during the day. V'chein belel sheni shel shnei yamim tovim shel galios, or so too from one day to the next. Even if you get it on one day, you can now have it on the next day. Lo belel sheni shel Rosh Hashanah v'lo belel Yom Tov she'achar Shabbos. But if it's 2 days, this is like the night of the second day, right after the first day. So if it's Rosh Hashanah, again, it's Yom Arichta, and also if it's Yom Tov after Shabbos, it's the same problem. Nahaga, ve'eno Yehudi maybe veitzim b'Yom Tov Rishon. Now, what happens if you go to a non-Jew during the day? So maybe it was laid that morning. So if it's Mesiach lefi tumo shenodu me'etmo. Now, if you ask him in a roundabout way, without asking him straight on, mutar lismoch alav. You're allowed to rely on him. Now that's assuming, the Mishnah Berurah points out, it's, again, all these little, Mesiach lefi tumo can be a little complicated. And he says, it depends if the non-Jew owns the eggs or not. Because he always wants them to be most fresh, and it'll increase the price, or people will buy it more. Everybody wants the egg that was laid today. So that's if he's going to make a direct benefit, so he might lie. But if it belongs to a non-Jew, and he doesn't really care, so then you could be so mechanim if you ask him on a roundabout way. I don't know, when was how long have you had the egg? The chicken or the egg, or what's, how did it come out? Were you there? Try and ask some roundabout questions to try and get him to tell you. Now, this is where it comes into the Hachana Daraba. Is it a din daraisa or a din darabanan? So it's a machlokes achronim to follow this Rama, or to argue. The Magen Avraham argues. The Rama says the only time you can do Mesiach lefutumo, that's the general rule, is if by an Isser darabanan. That's in your idea. So here, v'davka b'yom tov shechal yot hashavua. If Yom Tov falls out in the middle of the week, then it's only an issue of darabanan. Aval b'yom tov shechal echad b'Shabbos, she'az yesh lachu shemen oda b'Shabbos v'asur midaraisa b'yom tov. Ein Yehudi Mesiach lefi tuma ne'aman. You can't, because then if it's from Shabbos to Yom Tov, so then the Rama says that's a din daraisa of Rabbah, and therefore you can't trust him Mesiach lefi tuma. V'davka b'Yom Tov Rishon, only on Yom Tov Rishon. Aval b'Yom Tov Sheni afilu Rosh Hashanah ne'aman te'enu l'midarabanan. Even though we hold Yom Arichta is one long day for both days of Rosh Hashanah, we agree though that Yom Arichta is only a din darabanan. So if it's asur for one day, it's asur for the next day. But you can, regarding the second day, you can trust him if it was actually born erev Rosh Hashanah, as opposed to If you knew it was born on, or laid on Rosh Hashanah, then that would still be a problem. Okay. Hope that was clear enough. Zayin. Hashochet tarnagol u'matzah beitzim kumros. Now, let's say you shecht a chicken on Yom Tov. And you want to eat it. And now you find eggs that are fully formed with the klipa, and with the shell and everything. Mutarot, you're allowed to eat them. Because we're assuming the tarnagolet that we're talking about is prepared for eating. So therefore there's no issue of muksa on that. And we assume as long as the eggs were not laid, they never were fully finished, and so there's no hachana of the eggs themselves. So the eggs are edible, they're part of the same body of the chicken, and there's no hachana going on, and there's no muksa because the whole animal, the whole chicken was edible. It was omed la'achila. Even on Yom Tov after Shabbos, there's no gzera derabanan, there's no problem whatsoever.
If that chicken, which is set aside for eating,
Right,
actually laid an egg,
so then it's aser. That would be muksa because of a chana deraba, or which makes it into muksa. But correct. And then it would be either deraisa or derabanan. Correct. Chet. Now, what if you have an efroach shenolad b'yom tov? So the first, up until now, we're talking about the egg. What happens if a little chick is hatched on Yom Tov itself? So we say it's aser, because as long as it was inside, it was muksa. Even and you're not allowed to, it's muksa because it's not ra'i la'achila, and you didn't have it in mind to be ready to be eaten because you didn't expect it to be hatched. So then v'im nolad b'Shabbos, and if it actually does hatch on Shabbos, aser b'yom tov shel acharav. So since its hachana is being done on Shabbos, now it's aser for the next day, Yom Tov. And again, machlokas deraisa derabanan. Okay. Tavkuv yud daled shalul lechabot b'Yom Tov kiboy. So now putting out fires on Yom Tov. So we know we're allowed to light fires on Yom Tov. At least fire from fire. Right, because of ochel nefesh. So, Aleph. Asur lechabot deleka b'Yom Tov. Now let's say there's a fire in a house. You're not allowed to put it out. Afilu im roa beitun shenisraf. You see your house burning. Im ein sham sakanas nafashas. If there's no sakanas nafashas. So, if you're positive that it can't lead to sakana for anyone's life, you're not allowed to put it out. Now the general halacha nowadays is we always assume there's a sakana. You never know who's in the house, who's in the building, and fire travels very quickly from one place to the next. We also have electrical wires, v'chule, and the general rule is you put it out yourself immediately. But anyways, the din of the Shulchan Aruch was if you know for sure there can't be sakanas nefashos, so then you just leave it. Your house has to burn down. Okay. Ve'ein mechabin habekat. You can't put out a log of wood because you want to save your log of wood for later. You can't put that out for that. You have to let the whole fuel go. Even if you don't want the whole house to get full of smoke, you still can't put it out. Because you're not doing it for the purposes of ochel nefesh, you're doing it for the purposes of putting out the fire. Oh, kadera, or the kadera is going to get overburnt, even ruined, you're still not allowed to. Oh, kadera shamish mitato, or there's lights on, and in order to be with your wife, you want to put out, turn off the lights. So that's not a good enough reason. Haga. Now the Ramah is a little more makil, and he says, well, it depends. If there's no other way to save your kadera, then I'll let you put it out. If there's no other way to save the kadera, then you are allowed to put it out. Okay? That's part of machshir yochel. V'chen nira li ikar, and that's the halacha. V'chen v'bayit.
It's not different than lowering the flame so that it doesn't burn.
So that's for ochel nefesh.
Right.
To lower the flame to not ruin an empty pot, that would be a machlokas.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about there's food in this pot, no?
No. Even if there's no food. Well, either way. It could be lahatzil or lavashel. It could be...
Save the pot itself.
It says, after lahatzil or lavashel.
It's both.
Right, so if there's food in the pot,
then everyone says you're allowed to, because of ochel nefesh, you don't want to burn your food.
the pot has no food, the pot's going to get ruined, then it's no different than the binyan in
Correct.
the house.
So the Ramah is more makel than the
More than more
Shulchan.
makel, but
Correct.
that's the context of the legality of what
But
we're
the Ramah,
discussing.
Correct.
The Ramah is talking about where there's no food in this pot.
Right. Then you're allowed to save the pot. He says again, V'chen b'bayis. Im yisaref habayit lo yeh lo makom la'achol. You're not going to have where to eat. V'yavsi tzirato mutar lechabot. Then you're allowed to. Well, yesh lo bayit acher le'achol sham. But if you do have another house to go to, then asr lechabot mishum hefsed mamamon. Just for the sake of not losing your money, that's not good enough. There has to be something that's related to the food, though. If it's even if it's indirect, there still has to be a level of saving your food.
We're talking about an empty pot. How does the pot has food?
You saying it has food in there?
Yeah.
Pot has food.
Pashas enough.
You saying it definitely has to have food in there? Yeah, I think so. Fine. So you're saying that or if you need the pot. Fine. Either way, there is food in there, or your pot will be ruined and you don't have another pot to cook with. You're right. Okay. He takes a little bit more liberal approach, but it's not a huge difference. Okay. Alright. So yeah, but it comes out, for hefsed mamon, it's not enough. You have to let your whole house burn, but if your sandwich is gonna burn, then you're allowed to save it. I don't know. Okay. That's what it comes out, 100%. Because it's all about ochel nefesh. That's really what it is. Okay. Base. Now, in order to, if you have an oil lamp, and you want to lean it, so you make the oil go away from the patila, from the wick, that's called kibui, and it's aser. Because when you're doing that, you're causing the flame to become a little bit lower. If you're causing the flame to become a little bit lower, even just a tiny bit, that's kibui, and it could be an Isser D'Oraisa even. And that's aser. V'chen asur likach, V'chein asur likach petila miner daluk afil litna bener acher sheharek shemotzia miyad hu mechabeota. Even to take a wick from one ner and put it into another one, when you're taking it out, you're causing it to be extinguished, and that would be asur. Or any time you're causing it to be extinguished or even lower, then it's asur. Mutar lahosif petilat l'ner dolek kadei she'avir harba v'yichbe memehera b'yom tov. Now, but the Rama points out you are allowed to add another wick, even though this other wick is going to make it burn faster, and it's going to make the other wick go out faster. Gram kibui is mutter, that's clear. But actually doing kibui is aser. What exactly is called grama is a little bit of a question mark. We'll see with Gimel. Let's read Gimel.
Well, just adding up another wick, wouldn't you need to raise the heat for the sake of the food in order to be allowed to do this? Even raising longer, that's only when you cook it. We're not allowed to stam raise or lower flame.
Isn't the context of this for an actual oil lamp that's giving you light and not cooking?
Maybe light. But don't you need that extra heat or light in order to be able to add another wick? It could be that like a side product is that you want that the wick to go out, but
I listened to your share on Thursday, and I'm just going to point out we should probably pause on the conversation
Sure.
and focus on this.
Go.
It's so hard for someone to